Good afternoon. In this video, I'll explain how was my experience with the peer tutoring process. So let's start. First of all, here are some of the objectives of this process, which basically aimed at giving a supplementary instruction and assistance to the students from first semester of the foreign languages program. Also to improve and reinforce the students' skills in the language, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The other one is to encourage engagement and collaboration between peers, and to develop communication and social skills as well. And finally, to give the peers enough resources for them to keep learning on their own after the peer tutoring process ends. Now the participant, so she is Juliet Giraldo. She's 17 years old. She's from San Jose del Guaviare, and she was my student during this semester. She said she's studying foreign languages because she would like to travel around the world, and she's a very nice and responsible girl. Now the strategies. So these are the strategies I took into account when trying to accomplish the objectives I have just mentioned. So environment. It was very important to create a good environment where respect and confidence prevailed. Why? Because the student, Juliet, she could feel comfortable when asking for something, when expressing her needs and doubts. To identify difficulties. Well, in the first time we met, we talked about personal information such as age, name, hometown, etc. in English, so I could identify what were the most difficult things for them to express in English in order to reinforce them during the semester and during the peer tutoring sessions. To have a good communication. Well, this factor is about communicating, but after or before the tutoring process. I mean, when we were trying to establish a schedule, when sending information, or when establishing the place where we were going to have the meeting, we use social media to communicate. To choose topic in advance, well, I used to ask her for the topic she wanted to study before the peer tutoring, so I could prepare the topic properly. To use different sources, well, I tried to look for information that was very easy and clear to understand, because the objective was to make clear the doubts that she had from her classes. And also I tried to practice all of the competencies, but I was focused on the grammar part, which was her main weakness. And feedback and advice. I make the exercise with her, and I was always there to guide her, and after she ended the exercises I will give her the feedback, the correct answers, and also in pronunciation, how was the correct way to say something, and so on. Material. So here are some of the main topics we studied during the peer tutoring process. So the differences between how much, how many, uncountable nouns, Here is also the exercise. I always explain to her the main concepts, and then I will assign an easy and short exercise to see if she could understand the topic. Here is also regular verbs and irregular verbs, the list of some of the regular verbs and the different rules or exceptions, as well as the list of the irregular verbs that I gave to her in order to memorize them, because it is the only way to learn the list. Here, preposition of times, difference between may and might, and also will and going to. We also started quantifiers and a little bit of present perfect. Difficulties. So the main difficulties that I have were the absences. I had two other students, but they didn't come to any of my sessions. I think the problem was the lack of interest and also irresponsibility. Why? Because if as it wasn't mandatory to come to the tutoring, they didn't want to come. So I try hard to communicate with them and to tell them the advantages of this process, which was mainly for them, not for me, because I already learned and started these topics. But anyways, they wouldn't come, so I had to look for another student which had a different perspective, a different attitude, and that's why I could reach and achieve the process. Establishing the schedule was another problem, taking into account that the disponibility of time is different, but we could solve it. The lack of time. Well, students from first semester usually think that they don't have enough time, and that's one of the reasons why they don't go to the tutoring. But in reality, we have a lot more to do, and still we make the effort to do this process. And the last one is canceling the subject, because one of my students, she didn't come to the most of the tutoring sessions because she canceled the subject. And that's it. I think one suggestion from my experience to improve this process is that in the same way that it is mandatory for us to do it, the students should also have like the obligation, even if it sounds bad, because otherwise they won't go to the tutoring. So that's it. Here are some of the sources I used. 2 web pages with the theoretical part, and the other ones are mainly exercises. So thank you so much for your attention, and see you next time.